Hello, I just want to say hi, and as you can tell from the title of this presentation, the whole emphasis of this video is to hopefully help you become a really good hypnotist. And I want to give you a couple of very simple pointers on how to do it. I have mentioned this before, but I always seem to keep coming back to it in my personal life. So it just seems something like I will probably be repeating often. Every time I talk about something, you're going to hear something about this. It's really about how to be a good hypnotist, if not a really great one. What I have noticed is there are a couple things that every really good hypnotist have in common. They are obviously very skilled. They know their craft inside and out. Now, this is not about the skills of being a hypnotist. This is about being a hypnotist. This is about what it takes on the inside outward to really get good and be recognized as someone who really knows how to help people. And I wrote this, in fact, I emphasized it a couple times when I wrote this book. This is a extension of the Jeffrey Stevens hypnosis process, which I have available on the Mind Control Publishing website. If you're not familiar with this, this is a 3-session program that I use pretty much with everybody in order to help make really dramatic and positive changes and make them lasting and help people feel just absolutely incredible about what they're going through. And I mentioned it several times in this book, but I'm just going to make it clear and go through it and then make some emphasis on it. Keep in mind, as a hypnotist, you're going to be speaking with your clients and communicating with them all sorts of different ways and in all sorts of different levels. Now, the ways you're going to be communicating with them are probably with your website, with your emails, how you answer the phone, the forms you give them, the way that you greet them, obviously the hypnosis session, but also how you're going to wrap up the hypnosis session, how you're going to accept payment. These are all the moments that you're going to be communicating with them. And what I want you to really understand is these are all part of the very same thing. They're not, get them in the door, sit them in a chair, hypnotize them, take their money, make them leave. It's not like that. It's all one thing. And what I emphasize and I make clear in this book that I wrote and to anyone that I'm teaching is that one of the things you can do to make sure you get the very most positive result is realize that every opportunity that you're in front of a person or presenting yourself in any sort of way is an opportunity to influence them. So I have a list here. Keep in mind, you are sending emails, websites, every way that you communicate, you need to think about accomplishing at least one or more of these following points. You need to provide reassurance, create anticipation. You need to strengthen their ego. You need to reaffirm their self-worth, their self-esteem, and a positive self-image. You need to validate their successes, build optimism, and you need to reframe failures as valuable lessons. Think about it for a moment. If you meet anyone who communicates to you in this way, they're not just a good hypnotist, they're a great person. They are building you up with every interaction that you have with them. That is what I want to emphasize to be a really great hypnotist. Now, let's go over these one at a time. Provide reassurance. Now, the most important time that you should be thinking about providing reassurance is every moment that is leading up to the actual hypnosis session. This is particularly true if they are unfamiliar with you and unfamiliar with hypnosis. They may be very nervous about it. So through your attitude, through your behavior, you want to let them know they're doing a great thing. You want to reassure them that it's going to go well. And you want to let them know that the decision they've made to work with you are the right decisions. And ideally, think about communicating that in every communication you have, whether it's in email, conversation over the phone when they schedule with you, or even on your website. That's absolutely important to provide reassurance. Create anticipation. Once you've provided that assurance, that reassurance they're doing the right thing, and it may not take any time at all to let them know they're doing the right thing. Providing and creating that anticipation is going to build it up. And what it does, first of all, it makes them eager to do this. So you let them know that it's going to be great. You let them know that they should feel good about it. Occasionally, some people on the phone, when they schedule their appointment, they say, I'm really excited about this. And I let them know, I say, that is exactly the type of attitude you need to take when you come in here. Just get excited. A hypnotist, someone I know, used to end every phone call with a hypnosis subject with words something to this effect. He would say, you're going to look back on this and know you did exactly the right thing. And you'll find that I use that a lot too. What it does, it does a lot of time shifting. It puts them in the future to look back on what they have not yet done yet and feel good about it. But it's a great way to help build that anticipation. And again, you need to do this through every interaction. If you have staff that picks up the phone and schedules with you, make sure they understand what you're trying to convey, not just with your presence and with your words, but with everyone who is working with your client. Strengthen their ego. I can't tell you how important this is. Most of the ego strengthening that you're going to be doing is going to be taking place during the hypnosis session. There is that part of the hypnosis protocol that Jeff Stephen talks about. It's called the magic mirror. It is one of the very best ego strengthening processes. But if you find scripts, hypnosis scripts that talk about ego strengthening, it is important. Now, what ego strengthening is, keep in mind what the ego is. It's how people see themselves. It is the I when they talk about I. And quite frankly, too many people, most people, they put on a good front, but they do not feel good about who they are. So ego strengthening is going to be a vital part. I can tell you that there have been hundreds of times I've worked with clients, and when I do the ego strengthening, when I show them that they are worthwhile, caring, loving, and beautiful people, and they see it, sometimes for the very first time in their life, they start to cry. It is that powerful for them. But ego strengthening happens throughout the entire communication process. Just think about when you're with a friend who builds you up and tells you, who somehow says those words exactly like you need to hear to make you feel good about yourself. That's the kind of communication that you want to do through every part of your interactions with your clients, with your prospects, through every sort of media that you use. Next one, reaffirm self-worth, self-esteem, and a positive self-image. This is very much along the same lines as ego strengthening. The difference is slight, but it assumes that they are already have a growing sense of self and a positive self-image. And so reaffirming it, bringing them back to that is a way of just making them feel better about themselves. Consider what we're doing here. If you're helping someone to become a non-smoker through hypnosis or to lose weight through hypnosis, and without any hesitation, they just feel good about themselves, it links very powerfully to what the changes they're trying to accomplish. So again, through every communication, think about how you could help reaffirm their self-worth, their self-esteem, and a positive self-image. Consider how to validate their success. If you're working with a client for more than one session and they come back with the second session and let's suppose they want to lose weight and they said, you know, I didn't have any cravings. I drank just a lot of water, but I only lost like a pound. Well, what they're telling you is everything good happened except this one thing. They're not acknowledging the good things that are happening. So your responsibility, if they report that in any sort of way, is to turn their attention to what worked great, what they are doing well, and to acknowledge that their mind is making the adjustments just like it was instructed to do, so that they get their goal of, in this case, losing weight. This is true of people who are tobacco users and say, for example, they stop smoking for 4 days with no problem, and then something traumatic happens. They have a cigarette and they report back, I failed. And I have to reshift their thinking. I say, you didn't fail. You did an awesome job for those 4 days. That's what we're going to focus on. You did an incredible job. Something came along and disrupted it, but let's not discredit what you did really well. So validate their successes. People are way too easily willing to forget everything that had gone well if one thing goes bad. Build optimism. Keep in mind, most people come to a hypnotist not because they want something new and better, but because they want to get rid and move away from something that's painful and unpleasant. So they're really just moving away from pain. Now, you will get a result with people motivated in that way, but you also want to build something very positive for them to move toward. So here is, again, where you always have to emphasize the positive. You have to emphasize that you can look forward to this, that there's a time in the future, you're going to look back and you know you did the right thing. Reframe failures into valuable lessons. You're always going to find people who say, if you have a second or third session with them, something's going to happen. Say, for example, you help them quit smoking. They did great for 3 or 4 days, and then something happened and they started smoking, and they come back and they say, it didn't work. I failed. Again, turning it to the positive, this is an incredible opportunity to reframe everything that they think of as a failure into a lesson that was learned. It's always said in neurolinguistic programming, there's no such thing as failure, there's only feedback. So in those cases, I will often say to someone, okay, so let's just back away, let's take the emotion out of this. You were in this situation with friends, they were smoking and drinking, they offered you a cigarette, and you took it, and you found out what happens when that takes place. So now, just you tell me what you learned from that experience. And I will stop, I will shut up, I will pause, and I'll let them talk. And what they'll say is, inevitably, you just don't have that one cigarette. And I say, that's an awesome lesson. That's why I wanted you to have that lesson. So as long as you can reframe anything that they consider a failure into a valuable lesson, they're going to look at it differently. They're going to feel better about themselves. Okay, let's review and sort of recap. Every one of these 7 points that I made have something that's really important that you can do with every interaction with your client, with your prospective client, to really turn it into a positive experience for them. Now, the interesting thing is everything that is described in these 7 points, they're not just what make a good hypnotist. They're what make a good person. So consider taking this into every part of your life with every interaction. The wonderful thing about being able to make these changes and to focus in on having sort of engineering these experiences for people is that it gets you out of your own head. It is less about you being a hypnotist and more about you being a decent person, helping someone with a skill, a career, a calling that you value. So the real benefit of this is you stop thinking about, am I doing this right? You stop thinking about, I wonder what they think of me, or what happens if this goes wrong? You get out of your own head. You put your attention to the other person, and you make every effort to engineer their experience, to be the curator of an experience for this person that makes positive and dynamic and wonderful change. If you have any questions about this process or hypnosis in general, please, you're absolutely welcome to contact me. There are going to be some links that I provide below to some of the products and the services that I do. So check them out, and I would love to have your feedback on this. Thank you very much.